Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. As ever, it is me, Steve Hall, and on the other end is our... I didn't know how to... It's Mike Challis. I was thinking of a cool, interesting way to describe you and how brilliant your hair is.
How brilliant my hair is. It's so not brilliant at the moment. It's like...
No, that's what makes it brilliant, Mike.
Ah, there you go. It's just au naturel.
Just the fact you have heaps of it for someone who has not got heaps of it anymore makes it brilliant. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. It's just the weather's good at the moment, and yeah, just everything's in a nice place at the moment. So I'm just really good. Have you ever had one of those days where you kind of you've got a lot on, and you're kind of a little bit anxious about it. You think, oh God, am I going to get this all done? But then you crush it, and then you just manage to get it all done. You tick it off, you just get in the zone, and you focus, you knuckle down, and you just tick it all off, and you get to the end of the day, and you go like, oh, I did it all. Pretty happy. So it was one of those days today.
I think I caught that it was productive.
Yeah, pretty much, in a nutshell. I should have just said that. It's been a productive day.
No, it's great. You filled in for me. I don't know how much noise you could hear from here. It just felt manic. It was literally, I opened the door. This guy who had like his iPad and a pen, and I was like, sorry, I haven't got time in the middle of something. And I just shut the door on him. I was like, I can't speak to you right now. It irritates me. I think it's because now you're going to get this when you work from home and people come to the door to sell to you, and you're just like, it's like, I can't think of a good example. It's like when you come to a website, and unfortunately, I think our website might do this, but you go to a website and you're like perusing because, I don't know, you need some new shoes or something, and then just this like pop-up comes up. It's like, sign up to our email list now, and it's just like, oh, I was just looking. Or, I don't know, you're in a shop and just browsing, and then someone comes over to you and like, do you need help with anything? You're just like, no, leave me alone. Anyway.
Do you know what? A little slight pet peeve I have is when you go to a restaurant and they bring you your food and you've barely even touched it, and they come up and they go, is everything okay? It's like, I've not even started eating yet. Why are you asking me? It's like, give me half an hour.
Yeah, that's basically as bad as not asking. It's nice that they ask, and I get that it's probably like, I don't know, maybe it's protocol in some places and everything, but it kind of defeats the object if you're like, I'd just be like, I haven't started yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems okay from the looks of it.
Well, how are things with you, Steve?
Yeah, good. I think last time we checked in, my elbow was giving me some issues, or elbows, and they're still not perfect by any means, but just making exercise exchanges has been enough, and not exchanging all pulling, but making one or two exercise modifications has just been enough to work around it. So that's been great. And it comes back to your point, I think you maybe even mentioned it at that time where you talked about Alberto, where it's like, it could be the exact same movement pattern that you're doing, but just changing like the way that you perform it, or the tool that you use to perform it could be enough. Like now I'm not using the cable, I'm using the kind of hammer strength, like plate loaded lat pull down. It's the same movement pattern, everything, but just the way it's loading my joints and whatever, it just seems to be okay. So that's a real positive. And strangely enough, feeling a bit more energetic today after having, like the listeners will know, and you know, today's leg day, and I just finished off my RDLs. Not really sure why that is. I don't know. Maybe I just got some adrenaline from like running up and down the stairs and all that good stuff. But yeah, generally feeling good. I don't know. I think I'm in week 8 of this mesocycle now, and things are ticking along well. It is getting pretty brutal, and but that's part of the fun. Some things are a little bit like up and down in some instances, where I might one week lose a rep, but then I might gain a rep. And like when you zoom out, it is still linearly things are improving, or just maintaining. Like some things, like I know my bicep curls, I take them to failure every time, and they're just at failure, and I'm not really going to get much there, but that's fine. It's just ticking the box of maintaining a stimulus and just milking out the mesocycle up until either fatigue catches up to me, or more than likely, I think I'm going to be forced into at least a half-week deload come sometime in June. I almost thought you'd paused then, or were frozen then, because you were so like intent and listening and weren't moving. Because it's Charlotte's birthday soon. We're going to go away for it, not the weekend of it. And actually, for some reason, well, I guess it makes sense. May and June are quite busy months for us. My birthday's in May, her birthday then in June, and then my mum's birthday is also in June, and we're going home for that. And then I've got a tattoo in June, which we've spoken about. And I think Rob, you know, obviously my client Rob,
Right. Yeah.
Whedon, he's got his barbecue coming up at some point. He's probably passed that by you, so
Yeah.
that's coming up sometime June, July. I can't remember where it's specific, but it's in my diary. And yeah, then this weekend we're going away for my birthday, so we leave. Actually, we're going to leave Saturday morning, and then we'll go away for Charlotte's birthday probably the end of June, but that will maybe be like Friday and get back like late Monday. So I will have I won't be able to train, I don't think, wherever we're going. I think I haven't booked it at all or anything like that yet, so I need to. She said Malta, so yeah, hopefully go away for that. It's a big birthday for her. I don't want to say what her age is for some reason, because it's probably something I've spoken about and she would never know that I've said it, but for some reason I feel like I shouldn't say her age. But yeah, I'm turning 35 though.
Me too. What was I going to say? Do you know where you're going this weekend?
Yes, so we're going to Cambridge, but because it's my birthday, I was like, I want to train across my birthday weekend. And Charlotte took that as, I actually said I want to train on my birthday. She took that as I wanted to literally train on my birthday, but it's Sunday, and that's my rest day. So I was like, I actually don't care about training on my birthday. I just didn't want to skip training sessions if we were going away when it's for my birthday, because I love training. I want to get in training. So she was basically just like, hey, what's like one of the gyms you want to go and train at? Like, if you could pick. I was like, well, we probably won't want to go to Rotherham. It's probably not a weekend away type of vibes. From what I've heard, it's not the most nice place to visit, because otherwise I would choose like Ultraflex Rotherham. It's pretty outstanding in terms of the equipment and stuff. And then I was just thinking of some other gyms and trying to think of places that would be nice to visit. So I mentioned Cambridge. Did I say Cambridge?
Yeah.
There's Le Coach. I don't know if you know of it. You may have seen it. I know a few people who train there, and they've got great equipment. So yeah, I'll be getting in some sessions over there. And I may even train on my birthday. If I'm feeling as good as I feel now, I might just end up pushing that rest day to a day and try and get in, hopefully train there Saturday, Sunday and Monday. And then, yeah, I'm taking Monday off work, so I don't have to stress about things, or semi off. You know what it's like.
Yeah. It's almost a stress reliever doing those little bits and bobs that kind of, I don't know, it's almost like you're just pottering around the house, like doing a little bit of tidying here or there. It just takes a little bit of stress relief, so you don't have to do a major overhaul cleanup, on a given day. And sometimes with work related activities, it's a little bit like that, I find.
It definitely is, but I do think there's something for it's similar to training theoretically. If you're doing the same volume spread over 7 days and you train every day versus just 6 and not having a full rest day, I think there's something about that full break that is just like, I don't know what it is specifically, but it's similar with work. Like, if you do a bit of work every day, you actually might be better off doing a lot of work in like a number of days and having full breaks away from it. I don't know if that's completely true, but I do know when I'm forced away from work, actually I'm like, that's quite nice. And then I avoid also, if this sometimes happens, where I feel a little bit like I'm twiddling my thumbs, where I'm in like my work time, but I have no like formal like clear work to do, so I have to think of some work to do, and I'm like, that almost is a stress in for itself. It's quite nice to have that luxury sometimes, but at the same time, like it's surprising how much you can do within a certain block. Anyway, I'm rambling, but yeah, I agree with you, but also, and I do that because I do some check-ins over the weekend, which I don't have to do because it kind of helps during the week. I'm like, it makes the week less stressful, but I'm like, am I losing out on that real de-stressor during the weekend? So yeah, maybe now and then it's good to just take a full day away from any sort of work.
Yeah, and you make such a good point, actually, because as you were talking there as well, it's like one of those situations where it's like, have I just convinced myself that this is the way? And when in actuality, some like you said, just sometimes taking a full rest day and almost get comfortable being bored. Like you said, sometimes you just give yourself work-related duties. It's like, no, why don't you just be bored for a little while? You know, I think there's definitely an element to that for sure.
Yeah, it's these phones, too easy to get that dopamine fix of social media and watching that next reel or whatever it might be. I'm really bad for filling every gap with something. It feels like you're being productive, but you're not. And I think it's actually good for the brain to be bored. And sometimes in those moments of being bored, you think of your best ideas because you actually get to kind of clear the room and the space to be able to think of those things, which you might not otherwise.
Yeah, it's the classic example also of like being in the shower, where your best ideas come in the shower, and it's just when you're just not thinking about much, or you're just it's the relaxing water and stuff, and thoughts just come to your head.
I'm so bad for that too. Like literally, my showers are so short and efficient. I'm washing my body and done. Like I would hope. I know some people, and Charlotte will definitely do this more so on the weekend, but she'll take her time in the shower. She could be in there like, I don't know, in the bathroom like an hour or something. I don't even know. She's just enjoying taking care of herself and doing that. So yeah, where should we have a bath? Do you have a bath in your new place?
No. Yes, I do.
You could even take a bath. I can't remember.
I could.
I've actually taken a couple of baths. We have a bath. I've taken a couple of baths here. I don't know when I did them, but yeah, I just decided to do it, and it feels wrong. I remember doing it. I'm like, why am I taking a bath? Like, what? But again, it could be an opportunity. Don't take your phone in there and just, I don't know, just chill out in the water and switch off.
Yeah. Did you have a bath? You had a bath when you went away a little while ago. I can't remember where. It was where you had the bathtub in the living room.
Yeah, that was really cool, actually. And that's almost what this weekend, part of what I wanted this weekend to be, because Charlotte was asking, like, what do you want to do? I was like, I kind of want to get away and just not have, like, distractions and be in a different environment and just, like, cook some food together and chill out. And that was around probably this time last year. It might have been a bit later, actually. It might have been June, somewhere around that time. I can't precisely remember, or maybe a bit later. Anyway, I was pretty deep in prep at the time, and we went down south. I can't specifically remember the exact location, but it was down south in like the sticks, and we're in the middle of nowhere. I didn't train over that time. I was on a diet break, I remember. And yeah, there was a bath in, like, our Airbnb was just one room, the bed, there was a bath. Actually, there was a toilet, but the bath was in the bedroom, and then the kitchen was also in the bedroom / the bedroom was in the kitchen type of thing. So yeah, that was quite cool.
I remember you made a vlog out of it. I remember watching the vlog, and it was just cool. It was just quite novel seeing just a cool bathtub.
Yeah, I think in that vlog I was pretty beat up. Like I was feeling pretty fatigued and stuff. And it was last year, I haven't really spoken about it much this year, because this year's been so much better than last year, which sounds weird because you're listening to a bodybuilding podcast to a bodybuilder who went pro last year. So you think, oh, that's got to be like the best year ever. And hell, like that year was terrible. And I would never wish that on anyone. So yeah, it was a really, really tough time then. So this year, this time, can properly celebrate birthdays, which is really, really nice. So I'm excited for that. So everything is good on my end. I have zero complaints about things. Got some, actually, this is an exciting podcast for me coming up. And I'm almost certain you'll know who he is, because I know sometimes you're a bit out of the loop, Mike, so you might not always know. But Stan Efferding.
Yeah, the Rhino.
There we go. Great. Yes.
Yeah, cool. You're on his podcast.
No. I'm not on his. I don't know if he has. Does he have a podcast?
I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did. But
yeah, so everyone has a podcast nowadays. So yeah, but no, I'm getting him on our podcast. So I'll be interviewing him next Friday. In fact, I've got a crazy Friday because I'll have Holly Baxter on as well. She competed at the Pittsburgh Pro, which we were talking about last week. So we're going to talk a bit about her prep and everything and how that's been different. But yeah, I've got Stan on, and he's someone who I followed for a while, then kind of lost touch with him, and then I've kind of come back. He's always been there. He's kind of always been on the fringe of the evidence-based space a little bit, but he's always used science a lot. He is educated. I think he did exercise science at university and things, so he has like that scientific background. But obviously he's known as, yeah, like you said, the Rhino, and like the strongest bodybuilder, like the strongest IFBB pro. So yeah, he's a cool guy, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's so, yeah, it's interesting. I love it. Yeah.
Are you settled in your new place now?
Pretty much. It's quite nice actually, because I haven't had the opportunity to furnish it essentially. As you can tell
Are you
from
looking
the
for sofas and for tables, and have you started looking at all?
I did a small little bit of research on the weekend, last weekend, but I've booked next week off the clinic, so I've got lots of space. So that's my opportunity to research, buy some furniture, do all of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be nice. So just to be able to lounge around, especially because you didn't have one at your last place. So yeah, I don't even know, you're just sitting on like, did you have tables though? You had table and chairs, or what were you doing for food, like, and eating? And
so in the previous place I had like a kitchen island type thing which came out to the side, so I'd have like some bar stools which would go around there, and then I'd just kind of sit there. But now at the moment I've got nothing. So
yes.
It's very much on the top of the priority list at the moment.
Do you have nothing, as in you're stood right now and you don't have a desk chair?
No, technically not. So I'm on at the bar stool right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least that's something, I guess. But yeah, you probably need a desk chair as well at some point, or something like that.
Absolutely. So got the desk chair. This is probably going to be a bit of a slow thing to come on, but the priorities are like kitchen, dining, table and chairs, sofa. Those are like top priorities, and then like, yeah, I'll look at some stuff for the study.
I'm imagining you now, Mike, with like one mug, a knife and fork and spoon, and a plate and bowl. Or do you have that as well? Do you have all of that, like multiples?
I have one teaspoon, but I have multiple forks, you'll be pleased to hear, multiple knives, and multiple plates. But yeah, it is a little bit of that vibe at the moment.
More than one mug, though, surely.
Oh, I've got more than one mug. Yeah, I've got 3.
Us Brits are known for our mugs, and we have so many. They're so easy as a gift as well. I just like print something on it that's something that you're interested in, and now you have a mug and it's a present and it's cheap, and it works.
So you reminded me, I actually wanted to ask you about this. So you've been using a different way of making your coffee. What's different about that?
It's a mocha pot. So for the listeners that don't know what that is, probably Google it. It's probably the easiest way, but it's super simple. It has a base which you fill with water, and then it has a filter that you put on top of that, and then you put your coffee beans, ground coffee beans on that filter, and then it has another like top component where you then screw that on, and when you heat it through the bottom, the water then kind of causes pressure to come through the beans, and then it kind of forms an espresso up. So it's interesting because I don't know if any other coffee methods like work bottom up. Most other coffee methods are like top down, so it like comes up and out. So I basically got that because I've been working through my Nespresso pods, which I bought a ton, by the way. And I really like the Nespresso, and I like particularly the crema it forms on top. It's super simple. We have the Virtuo machine. But I burned through all of those and just decided once I was through those, I wasn't going to get any more. And the main reason is to do what I can to reduce my microplastic consumption. I don't know a ton about this area, but I've listened to maybe 5 hours worth of like podcasts on it, and I've had Greg Potter on the podcast to talk about it. It hasn't come out yet. It may even be the next episode that comes out. It's coming out shortly, at least. And basically, you just want to try and reduce your exposure to microplastics. It seems like a no-brainer. And because one of the easiest ways to liberate microplastics is heat. So the fact is the espresso machine is plastic, and it's coming through everything, and it's all heated. And I don't know about the pods or whatever. They're probably not a problem. But I was just like, hey, that's probably a source of microplastics. I can just find a method of creating coffee that doesn't have that. And so the mocha pot is aluminium, which apparently there's issues with aluminium too because of like aluminium, heavy metals and stuff like this. But I think the risks of that are quite a bit lower. And also you can mitigate them if you don't like wash it in a weird way that like really liberates a lot of the aluminium. I may even upgrade to a steel one or a cast iron one. I can't remember. I think it's steel. You can get steel mocha pots. This one was super cheap. It was literally £8 from Lidl. So cheap. That's what I just saw it when we were there last weekend. I was like, maybe I'll pick one of these up. It'll do me in the interim. I am looking to invest in like a proper, like, I want to get into coffee. So I want to get like a proper machine that you might see, not like the ones at like a Cafe Nero or Starbucks, but one higher up than like an espresso, but try and find one that is minimal on the plastic front. Because whilst the mocha pot's nice, it's not the most convenient. It can only make like, and you can get different sizes, but this one can only do like 300 mils worth of coffee. So it's a fairly small coffee. And if you want to serve multiple people, you probably have to have multiple on the go, on the hob. And yeah, it's a little bit inconvenient. It's quite fun though, like using a different way and kind of taking the time to make it and everything. So anyway, yeah, I'll probably invest in a machine that doesn't have too much plastic. I've also made a change with my shaker cups for not the longest time, but for maybe the majority of this year, I moved to using metal. So when you see me drinking out of like this, I used to just use like a shaker cup for a glass, whereas like this is just metal. And I've moved to like I use an intra-workout, and in that I've just moved to these metal ones that I found online. Funnily enough, it's really hard to find shakers and bottles that have zero plastic on them. I don't even know if there are ones that zero. I think the one I've got has silicone, and I don't know if that's got the same negatives as plastic. I actually don't know. I think I asked Greg on the podcast. He was like, good question, don't know. And yeah, without kind of becoming a biohacker extremist with this sort of thing, where it's easy for me to reduce my plastic consumption, I will do it. But like there's so many things. When you think about plastic in your life, you realize how it's freaking everywhere. Like it's polyester in clothing. I was thinking I eat like dairy, everything's in plastic. I buy this kimchi pre-prepped, that's in plastic. Like my tubs of protein powder, plastic. Like everything's plastic. It's like you're definitely not going to get away from it. But I think it just makes sense wherever possible. Like for example, Tupperware, try and go for glass. If you are using plastic Tupperware, don't reheat it in the plastic because that liberates it quite a lot. Avoid washing your plastic food items with hot water. But it's like the Ninja Creamies, the container, every day I'm using this plastic container. And I don't think they sell metal ones just yet, at least. But yeah, I think you could probably go crazy and you could become this person. I forget what the phobia is, but you know those people that kind of are scared to go outside.
Is that agoraphobia or something
agoraphobia,
like that?
I think. Yeah, I think you're right. You could get like a phobia like from it because
Totally.
It's just everywhere and there's nothing you can another big one, and I'm glad that I had already removed this really from my life maybe since 2017 was chewing gum. Chewing gum, literally the base of chewing gum is plastic, of like standard chewing gum. There are plastic free chewing gums, which I haven't tried yet, but yeah, like literally you're chewing on plastic. So that has tons in there. And the evidence isn't like crazy strong to suggest that like these are super duper harmful, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like there is some evidence to suggest they are harmful. And so if you can reduce it, it probably makes sense. I think it's like in brains with people with Alzheimer's or something along those lines, they found the equivalent of like a plastic fork worth of plastic in their brain.
Wow.
You think about that. That's that can't be good probably. So yeah, I'm not being extremist or alarmist about it, but I do think it's something if you're trying to take care of your health, if there's some easy switches you can make, yeah, why not make them? But it's even down to one other example. I think Greg said this, but like cars outside have rubber tires. Like they're driving, microplastics coming off that. But if you have a plastic chopping board, do you have a plastic chopping board, Mike?
I think, yes, I do.
Get a wooden one. Easy switch.
Yeah.
Just because obviously the plastic's just going to start coming off it. So, yeah. Anyway, I went on a complete ramble there.
No, it was really good because again, that was one of the things on my to-do list to do, because as you will see, I'm using a plastic shaker, and I'm like, it was in the back of my mind to, right, I want to buy a metal shaker to drink out of. And like you were talking about the coffee machine that I've got, it's all plastic, and it's like, you know, the pods are plastic, and yeah, and I think it's just, like you said, for people who are just conscious of your health, doing little bits can just sometimes make the difference. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to catastrophize stuff, you don't have to take it to the extreme, but sometimes just little things can go a long way. You know, so yeah, I totally agree with you.
It makes me think of the saying, like, everything can kill you. Like, it's true, but it's like, don't give up, but don't like catastrophize it. It's similar to, I think I maybe mentioned it on here. I actually asked Greg about it, I think, on the podcast too, but there's some very limited research on tattoos and their impact on the lymph nodes, and how that they could be correlated seemingly with lymph node cancer. And so, you know, it might not be the healthiest thing to have tattoos. I actually can't speak strongly on that, but it's like, oh, that's crazy. People have been tattooing for so long. Now we know if it was a real problem, you'd start seeing issues and it would be much, much clearer. But maybe there's something there, but it's like, it's not going to stop me like living my life. Like, I'm going to be there's bigger rocks, bigger concerns that fundamentally we're taking care of. Like, we're not smoking, we don't drink alcohol, we take care of our sleep, we eat lots of micronutrient dense foods and things like this. And actually, one of the ways you can mitigate some of the ill effects of plastics is like having a high fiber diet. I think there's some components within oats even that really help mitigate some of the negative impacts of things. So it's like, it's stuff that we'd be doing anyway. The only final thing on plastics, because it's another big source, is tea bags. So apparently tea bags are often plastic, or there's plastics in there. So it's like, it's an easy way to like get plastic free ones, or get loose tea leaves. Or another one is your kettle, if the inside of your kettle's plastic.
Plastic kettle.
So yeah, ours is super cheap from Argos, but I was like, oh, thankfully it's metal. Like,
that's lucky.
But yeah.
What was I going to say? I think also one thing that I thought of is that we've also got to not underestimate the resilience of the body, and actually small exposures to, you know, stresses or, you know, other things can make the body more resilient. It's like, you know, when you've got like a small child, if you don't expose them to any kind of germs, they're never going to build up a resilient immune system. And so I think there is another element of, like, don't be afraid about exposing yourselves to stress or some things, because the body is probably going to be able to be resilient. And, you know, if it's exposed to that, it might build up a certain tolerance. But again, we don't want to take that too far, like with the plastics, where, you know, it is harmful to health. So I think there's that side of things as well.
Mike, this is on the same lines, but it almost feels like a bit of a tangent. Have you ever swallowed chewing gum?
Yes, probably.
I have vivid memories of swallowing it by accident many times as a child. I'm just like, oh, god damn it. How ridiculous. But yeah, we're all gonna make it. It's okay.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You know, it's just, you just don't think about it.
Yeah, like you said, small swaps, little modifications. But that's the podcast that will come out with Greg, so people can learn a bit more there. But yeah, that's why I basically got the little mocha pot, which I'm enjoying. Kind of a bit of a slower way of making coffee, and did a bit of research into it, and I can see why people get way into it, because even I realized the first time I was using it, after I watched a video from James Hoffman, who's like the man for coffee, I was like, yeah, I fucked that. I like completely burnt all of the coffee, and I just basically did it how you probably do it too, Mike. Make it as quick as possible. So boil the water, just get it done quickly. And it's like, actually, no, you want to like make sure it doesn't come out of the nozzle too quickly, so you don't burn things, and like you want it nice and slow. So yeah, anyway, but that was quite fun to at least learn about.
I would love to get into coffee. I really would, because yeah, just when you have a good coffee, you're just like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. Like I love it. But yeah, got to invest it. Unfortunately, my kitchen space is quite limited. It's not there's not too much space on the kitchen countertop. So even with just having an air fryer grill and a microwave, it's surprising how much space it's taken up. So if I was to get a Ninja Creamy, I'd probably have no space to cook. So it's a bit of a shame, really. So I'm going to have to be very conscious about what I have.
Yeah. It might have to be something that you like have on the countertop and then you move it. Like the Ninja Creamy is, what did you mention? You have a microwave and the air fryer. So maybe the Ninja Creamies out of all of those would be the smallest to be able to like store away and then bring out when you use it, or whatever you're not using that regularly. Like we have an air fryer in like a cupboard, which actually it's plugged in. It's actually, this kitchen's a bit weird, but yeah, we have loads of sockets and areas to like plug stuff in. So you might be able to find somewhere where it just like works, or at least the Ninja Creamy, it's not that messy. So it might be something that you can put like somewhere near a plug in the lounge or something. I don't know. It's noisy, but it's not messy, which is good.
Yeah. I'll find a way. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get little, efficient for sure.
So I know you're excited for the Ninja Creamy, weren't you? You haven't got one yet.
No, I feel guilty. I feel like should I get a Ninja Creamy before I even get table and chairs? Is that bad?
Well, does getting a Ninja Creamy delay you getting table and chairs?
No, probably not. I could probably get it at the same time. So yeah,
I'm like, at least with that, you don't have to do any research because you're just like, I just have to buy that. So that makes it a bit easier.
Could literally just pop to Argos.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but no, nothing else from my angle. All I was going to say, coming back to the point of how June is a busy time, is just how we've got the WNBF first timers coming up in the first week of June, which I'm looking forward to. It always reminds me of like, hey, we're getting into the bodybuilding season, at least in the UK, you know, good and proper. So yeah, I'm really excited for that.
If you've got a minute, you can explain what you're going to be doing there, and I'm just going to go for a quick wee. I'm sorry. I do this every episode now.
So I've got a bit of a dual role. So I've always classically worked with the backstage crew. So this is where we're, you know, helping guide contestants or competitors to different areas of the stage. So it might be we're taking them from backstage to kind of behind the stage, or from the pump up room to the back of the stage, or we're just helping, you know, talk to competitors and basically the logistics behind the scenes. Essentially, that's what I typically do. And
would that be called an expediter?
I don't know, actually.
I think that's what people call that. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. You
have to shout at people, go here, whoever, we need you.
You literally, because so you'll go up to the top of, you know, the waiting area, and then you'll be like, novice open bodybuilders, and then classically no one comes. You're just like so you're constantly like, just shouting for people,
chasing people. But you also have another role, right, this time?
So I've been really lucky. You know, Steph's allowed me to do some shadow judging, which I'm really excited about. So, you know, we sitting on the judging table, just kind of observing, but also kind of marking some mock score sheets as classes are being judged. So yeah, I really, judging is always something that I've wanted to do, because it's just something that I really enjoy. I get a lot of value from it. I feel that it helps me, I don't know, just in terms of my development as, you know, both a coach and a passionate bodybuilder as such. So so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's definitely different watching a show. I think there's probably 3 different ways you can watch a show. One is you're watching it and you have a client on stage. Another is you're watching it just as what's it called? Observer, and you don't have anyone on stage who you know, you're just watching it. And then the other is judging, and it's all completely different how you look at the people on stage, because when for example, like having Kieran and Jake on stage, like I'm just looking at them. What are they doing? What could they do better? And I try and like have a look of where I think they might be placing, but I'm not placing every single competitor. Whereas like as a judge, you're very much like, okay, who's my top 7 or 6? Especially that's kind of what we score in the WNBF UK. And then, yeah, as a just general observer, I guess you could do a bunch of different things, but you could just enjoy the physiques on stage and whatever it is. So it'll be cool for you to like sit there and judge and see how that differs maybe from your judging and experience with the MPA, because you've already judged. Is it just once you've judged for the MPA? Is that right?
No, I think I've judged 3 or 4 times for the MPA, and cool. I also judged. There's a small federation called Gym Bodies, and so basically one of the judges who judged at the MPA, she's got her own sort of. I don't know whether you'd call it a federation or not, but it's called Gym Bodies, and they had a Halloween gala, which was like a fitness competition, and so I judged at that as well. So I've kind of judged at, maybe at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how you feel the differences, and also I actually need to have a look, but I don't know if they have like a classic class this time around, because obviously WNBF introduced classic, so I imagine there will be an actual classic class. And so I think when we have our judging call, which by the way I haven't said, I'm going to be judging there, so that'll be fun. And yeah, when we have our judging call, I think there'll probably be an educational component on how to judge classic. I already have some insights into that, having had some discussions with some other people affiliated with the WNBF of how that might look. So I'm quite excited, because a big, and obviously we discussed it on the kind of main podcast, or the Revive Stronger podcast, with like Chris Barakat talking about bringing in classic and things, and just how really want it to be different to open, because obviously they've said they're not going to judge you harshly if you're more conditioned or if you're oversized or anything like that. So it's like, well, how's it different to open? So I think they're going to have some elements within the judging, which I can't say yet because I don't know. They're going to make sure it's different, so that'll be cool. But yeah, we don't have any clients there, which in some ways is good, because then like you're not stressing about, like for me, I never like being on the judges table and having clients. Not that I judge my clients, because tend to sit out when that happens, but you can't really give your clients attention on the day. I've had that at times, which it's just not as fun as being able to like be with your client backstage and like put them through everything and give them your full kind of care and attention on the day. It's actually even worse, because when I'm here in the UK and I have my like Kieran in Canada and Jake in the US, I can be on my phone and communicating them through the day, like on it. So it's really, when I'm in the UK and they're like behind the stage, but I'm judging, so I literally can't give them like any care and attention. They need to be taken care of ahead of time. So yeah, it's nice in some ways not to be having any clients. So at the same time, it would be nice to have some clients. I don't know, any listeners here thinking about competing in the UK, like, hey, we'd be happy to have you. But we tend to attract more Australians, people in the US, Canada. I don't know if that's maybe more of our listener base. I know it is more of our listener base, but yeah, we're definitely open to some UK competitors as well, which we will have over the coming years, because I have some people on my books I'm very excited about taking the stage again, including you, Mike.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And because Rob is going to be competing next year.
That's the plan, next year, yeah. So
I'm excited.
He's exactly where we need him to be. So yeah, I am very excited for that process. And yeah, actually, the last time went so well. If we can just repeat that, but with new and improved Rob, it's going to be fantastic. And I can't wait to see what he brings. So yeah, no other news on your end. I have one piece of like, I don't know what we'd call it, like theme of the news of the week within the industry and space that we could talk about, or we could just go to questions.
News of the week.
I can frame it to you and see what you think before we definitely dig into it. I think it's still interesting to kind of have a small chat about it. You know Jordan Peters?
Yeah.
So Trained by JP over on Instagram. He's been on the podcast once or twice. So we had a solo interview. I don't know what episode it was, a long time ago. And then he came on with Mike Israetel, and they had their kind of back and forth. And yeah, he hasn't been on since then. And I haven't paid like super detailed close attention to everything he does. But every now and then his posts go like circle around, and I end up seeing them he has some strong words, and so that tends to spread pretty well. You know, he's a very opinionated person, which is totally fine. But basically, yeah, I haven't actually even read the post, funnily enough. I've just seen it going around, and I was going to bring it up and just read it and then go like, let's have a discussion around it, because I have seen people having discussions surrounding it. I believe the premise, so you know the premise, is basic. This to me, this wasn't new JP. This is just always what he says. It's just like, stop overthinking things, shut up, train hard, like get strong. Like that's kind of the premise, I believe, of the post. Do you want to discuss it, or shall we go into questions? Okay, you want to discuss it?
Let's discuss it.
I should have got you to get the post up. Oh, no, I've got it here. Cool. So, Trained by JP. I'll just read it verbatim. It looks fairly lengthy, but hopefully it's not. To get to this, by the way, listeners, it was 6 days ago. I don't know what date that was, but you'll be able to find it. He's doing a most muscular hands clasped. And yeah, there's 43,000 likes, 1,000 comments, over 1,500 sends, so you can see it did well. Anyway, so to get to this, I didn't ask about ROM. Okay, to get to this, as in his physique. To get to this, I didn't ask about ROM or rep ranges over and over. Those questions didn't exist 20 years ago, and didn't need to, because there were people who had the size I wanted, so I emulated what they did, and guess what? It worked. We didn't ever talk about fatigue, ever. I'm so insanely embarrassed for you if you mention fatigue management to me. To get to this, I set lift targets, really fucking high ones. I knew that if I could overhead Smith 5 plates aside, I would have bigger delts than anyone. Ooh, wow, it worked. I knew that if I could get my stiff leg to 8 plates aside, I would have bigger erectors. Ooh, wow, that worked too. Fucking funny that. I focused entirely on the work and didn't give a shit what I felt/endured to reach the lift targets. I cannot express how much I hate this app now and all the complete utter wank that I read. Told you, strong opinions. And strongly worded as well. So from people with no muscle, advising people with no muscle. Ban these shit convos from your mind and focus entirely on the work. It's a small person thing to find 20 ways to distract themselves from the fact they are too much of a fucking pussy to go after hard sets and huge lift targets. I don't care if you're natty either. AJ Morris and Keevy West did it. They set piss take lift targets and built a shit ton of muscle doing it. We didn't talk about not doing the work because motor unit recruitment declines as sets go on. Fuck off. And just do it. And do it more of it. And more again until you're so battered that you can't get out of bed. So practical advice, instead of just calling you all a bunch of useless cunts, whatever you lift now for 4 reps, you must get it to 12 ASAP with 0 change in form. And then by this time next year, you must have increased your load on the bar by 50%. That is doable, I promise you. Be a savage and attack your sets and put all this insane noise out of your mind. Are we trying to get big here? Question mark. Or are we just trying to talk about it? I could see why this went semi-viral. Thoughts? So actually, I summarized it semi-well.
Yeah, I guess my immediate thoughts are, do you know what? I think there's some positive elements to it. But I think on the whole, it strikes me as just being a bit overly simplistic. I think there's probably going to be some good parts of, like, do you know what, you can legitimately overthink it, and in terms of progressive overload, etc., like, yeah, definitely. And I also think that we can overthink it, and it is about that practical application to a certain degree. However, it is just a bit overly simplistic. You know, people will get it. You know, if you follow exactly what he did to a T, you would plateau. You wouldn't make progress. People would get injured. Lots of people will get injured, and you know. So I think there's good parts, but it's not the whole story. And yeah, that's kind of my immediate take on it, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think the reason it's done well is it is simplistic, and kind of a bit black and white messaging on social media does really well. And I do think sometimes you need to do that to make a point. It kind of reminds me very basically of a reel that I did, not reel, well, it was a reel, and then I also did it as an infographic, where I outlined, like, if you're not progressing, you're not growing. Like, it was that fundamental, that's what he's essentially talking about here, is getting stronger over time. It's progressive overload, and really have that as a fundamental focus, and essentially work yourself really hard until, like, you're beat up and you need to back off. And that's a fundamental premise of, like, periodization. I think you can word it in a really complex, like, convoluted manner, and I do think you can over obsess about fatigue management and those aspects, but, like, fatigue is only an issue when it's an issue. If you're feeling really good, you can train really hard. Like, don't deload because it's week 7 or whatever, you know, or it's week 5 in the program, or the program says it. If you feel great, keep going. If you can add load, add reps, and maintain form and technique, amazing, keep going. But I do absolutely agree with you. And the point that you made here and that I wanted to bring up was, like, just looking at the people who are there and emulating them, i.e. success leaves clues. And I definitely think it leaves clues, but that's what it leaves, clues. It does not leave a blueprint of how to go about it. Nowhere in life is that true. You can't look at someone and be like, okay, how did you do it? And then exactly map it out to you. And I think actually that's a huge problem with coaching in general, is that a lot of bodybuilding coaches look at what got them from A to B and then just give that to their clients. Some clients will succeed and some will, like you said, get injured, burn out, get screwed up. And that's where coaching comes, good coaching, true coaching comes in, where you individualize things, where it's like, oh, that exercise just injures them. Like you talked about the straight leg deadlift or what have you, or the overhead press. It's like, well, those lifts might not even be tenable to some people. So if you were to just go, okay, what did they do, and mirror it completely, and I don't think that's necessarily what JP is trying to say here. He'd be like, oh, duh, if you're going to get injured from a movement, do a similar movement pattern, but then get strong at that one. So that's why I try and draw it back to, like, what's first principles, what's his main message here, is just like, don't get caught up in the noise, avoid paralysis by analysis by focusing on the big fundamental core basics, train really hard, progress things over time, and don't be scared to push yourself, and only think about fatigue when you actually need to think about it. When you are like firing on all cylinders and like you're plateauing and you're feeling beat up, then you think about it. And there's smart ways to manage fatigue at that point. But I do think, because like I actually don't think he's having a go at like evidence-based fitness or science-based lifters, whatever it is. It's more that like young TikTok community who have like jumped onto research, and they're then using these studies as if arguments of exact ways you should be doing things. And almost sometimes, like, I don't know, I even had it recently on one of my posts where this I can say kid, I think he was a teenager, was critiquing me because something like all my pulls were in the sagittal plane or something. It's clearly something he's read or heard from some other influencer, and was like, you're just hitting the muscle the same way. And I was like, you can't look at me training here and think I'm just doing redundancy and it's all hitting the muscle the same way. There's no chance. It's just a clear lack of experience. I think that's what he's get frustrated at, because it's like he said, these kind of people with no muscle educating other people with no muscle to have no muscle. But I do think there's a problem with that too, where there can be people who aren't hugely developed. Maybe it's in spite of what they're doing, they could be doing their best and trying as hard as they can, but could have lots of knowledge. You could even say someone like a Brad Schoenfeld, he's not like huge jacked bodybuilder, and I know he's been critiqued for this, where it's like, why would I listen to him? It's like, because he's got so many years of experience, he's ran so many studies that there's probably no one who's more of an expert on the like hypertrophy. And it's similar to, I don't know, people look at Michael Jordan and be like, oh, clearly he's the best coach in the world to make people the best basketball players because success leaves clues. It's like, actually, he's not the best coach. He had coaches to make him that good. So I do think there's some nuance to this, and I almost guarantee if you were to chat to JP, give our like side of it just there, he'd be like, yeah, I agree with that. I was making a point. That's kind of what I think from this post. So yeah, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts based off what I said there.
I just think I loved what you said about try to look at something a bit deeper and extract what is the underlying principles of the message. Because like you said, I think that's the key with this. I totally agree. I don't think he was necessarily having a go. I think there's lots of value to be taken from this message in terms of principles. So that's what we've got to do when we look at those sorts of messages. Try not to react emotionally. Try to see the underlying thing that he's trying to say and use that to help us. And one thing that came to mind as you were talking is that, sure, because there's probably a lot of people that copied Ronnie Coleman's program or copied Jay Cutler's program or whatever, but they're not Jay Cutler. And equally, probably Ronnie Coleman wouldn't be the best bodybuilding coach because he was Ronnie Coleman, because he could have done anything and he would have been 8-time Mr. Olympia. And that's coming back to your last point where, I think you've got to look at the journey people have been on. Where have they come from to where are they now? So I would say, like, people like yourself, people like Eric Helms, like, who have, they're not genetically the best well endowed, but they've bloody come a long way. And I think if you can combine that knowledgeable, they've got experience in the trenches, and the journey that they've been on, they've had to overcome and like really develop themselves. That is someone to pay attention to in my head.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's what was I going to say? Oh man, I had thoughts come through my head and then it just this is what I was going to say. So I actually think it's very similar to like people with lots of experience. So JP, I believe, has coached lots of people to success. He's obviously transformed his physique, had a lot of success with doing that. So I think there's things you can take from that and you can draw principles from what they say. And it's similar and not specifics. So successful is clues, not specifics. It's the same with research though. Anyone who's like, hey, see that Enos paper? They trained with 52 sets. They saw the most quad growth. So I should be doing 52 sets. They have no idea what that research is really trying to practically give us. It's just trying to detect signals and like give us clues about how we might want to train. Because ultimately, all these training studies, like, I don't know if there's been one person, I've never been in the training study, so it's definitely not specific to me, but the majority of training studies are not on people who've been training a decade, 2 decades, like trying to maximize muscle growth. So like, we can't draw super specifics from that, like you and me. They're more like, again, people who haven't been training that long, but even then, often they're not that ecologically valid depending on the papers and everything. And then you just have to draw, okay, what's the principle that it's trying to show? What's the like direction it's indicating? For example, 52 sets wasn't do 52 sets. It was like, oh, there seems to be a dose response with volume. So long as you're recovering, you can tolerate it, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's and the other thing that JP's post made me think of is just Greg Doucette. It just made me think of that go harder than last time or whatever the thing he says. But it comes back to the thing I say quite often in terms of like bodybuilding is as simple as, but there's lots of nuance within this. Train as hard as you can, as often as you can, for as long as you can. It's like, that sounds really simple, but in practice, there's lots of ways you can manage things or set up programs. And that's the art of coaching. And also just like, maybe there's many roads to Rome. And it's like, pick your poison. There's probably better roads and you just have to venture out and discover for yourself.
Yeah, no, totally. But that's part of the journey. It's part of the journey is learning, experimenting, finding what works for you as an individual. And we're not always going to get it right, but that's part of the journey. So and
I've made so many mistakes, man. When I look back at some of the stuff I do. I think I posted up on my story. You probably saw it. I think, was it my 10th set?
Yeah, 10th sets on the leg press.
Yeah, so for those that don't follow me on Instagram, shame on you and who didn't see my story. I basically took a screenshot from like a Facebook post that I made, and it was like my 10th set of leg press to failure. And I just saw that and I cringed. And funny enough, a few days before, I sent it to the data-driven strength guys because we'd had a chat on the podcast about this sort of thing. And it was like my 7th set of straight leg deadlifts. And I was just like, fucking hell, Steve, what were you doing? I understand what led me there, and it was a good lesson, but, you know, yeah. But like now people have got me for my lateral raises because I'm doing 7 sets. It's a bit different, though.
It's totally different. And but yeah, it's funny when you look back, but yeah. But there is that saying which says that if you don't look back at yourself and cringe, it means you've not learned anything.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think that's a great saying. Should we get to some questions, Michael?
Let's get to some questions.
Awesome. So we have Neil Naik. Is that the one you've got up?
Yeah, I discovered that I can actually do screen mirroring.
Ah, nice. Yeah, it's great when you can mirror. Mine just fails all the time. I don't know why. It just doesn't connect to my phone. So I'm having to do it old school and actually look at 2 screens. I'll ask this question though, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So he has asked, I think he or she or they, if you could restart your journey from day one with all the knowledge you have now, is there anything you'd done differently? That's so funny. It connects just to what we were saying.
What a great coincidence. So I guess top things would be, well, do you know what? I think the first thing would be understanding that my passion and my ultimate goal is bodybuilding, because I think because I went from starting out in bodybuilding, but then I went through a bit of a powerlifting phase, and then I went through a bit of a strongman phase and blah, blah. You know, I think if I'd have just said, look, Mike, your overarching goal is bodybuilding and hypertrophy. And if I'd have just been consistent with that, I think that would have helped me a lot. And then I think if, in addition to that, if I could have done things like exactly what we talked about, like I can remember doing, 10 sets of deadlifts and then 10 sets of squats and then, just silly programming errors, like knocked that on the head. Yeah, those are some top things I would have done differently. In addition to dieting, where again, like I just, did things very drastically. I might have dieted on lower calories, which I didn't need to do, lost at a rate of loss that I didn't need to lose at. And I think if I could have just done all of those things differently, I think my progress and potentially how I would be now would be quite different, or I would have been maybe further along the road.
I'll take a little bit of a different angle. It's that old saying, like, no regrets. I live with no regrets. I'm just thinking, hey, I never expected that I would be a pro natural bodybuilder, and everything I did led me here, and I'm doing a career and job that I love. I have no, touch wood, still have no like terrible injuries or anything like that. So like, I'm like, man, I kind of made it, It's actually quite nice thinking about it that way. But I'm not going to leave it there, because I do think there's some things that I wish I wouldn't have done. And that is, when I was recovering from my accident, I rapidly gained weight at an excessive pace, to the point where I got stretch marks. So I have stretch marks, mostly just on my arms. Probably no one notices them. I barely ever notice them, but they were pretty severe the time I developed them, and I got like, that's like the most uncomfortable I've been in my body and the fattest I've been. And I think that's just one thing I changed, where like, hey, you can't force feed muscle growth as much as I like to think I could through wholesome, minimally processed foods. I just thought, hey, if I eat clean, I'm going to gain clean weight. Didn't happen. You can get fat eating nuts and seeds and I don't know, all the stuff I was eating. So yeah, I think that's the only thing. Otherwise, I'd say, hey, everything else got me here where I am, and man, I never expected even to get to this point. So I'm pretty happy about that. I can't think of anything else that specifically I would change. Only other thing, I guess, actually, because I lie, I do have a injury. I have a slap tear. It's just, that goes to show how little it impacts me in the gym and with my process. And I don't think I can blame my maybe slightly underdeveloped chest towards other muscle groups because of that slap tear. I don't think it's held me back at all, but probably would have been nice not to have got that. So I wish that I hadn't lifted that weight, whatever necessarily did it, but I wish I'd not. This comes down to, actually, it makes me think of JP's post, and one of the problems people come into with that message of just like, get strong, and they progress despite technique. So I wish my technique I'd held on to a bit more, so I hadn't torn that ligament or tendon even. Tendon? I think it's a tendon.
It's a labral it's a tear. It's a tear of the cartilage.
Cartilage. So is it ligament or
so
is it just cartilage?
It's cartilage. So it stands for superior labral anterior posterior. So where you've got the socket and you've got the ball, you've got an acetabulum, the cartilage that lines kind of the socket, and the tear is to the superior anterior it's kind of like to the top bit.
Yeah, I know. I just get instability with overhead pressing and pressing in general, and it used to click, but actually hasn't clicked in, I don't know when the last time it clicked. So yeah, thankfully, so that's the only thing. Anyway, shall I you can get to the next question, Mike.
So let me pronounce this. So de Klerk, that's what I'm going to go with. De Klerk asks, thought on not standardizing rest time and sets, artificially giving you data of improvement / growth.
Cool. So I understand what they're saying here. When you're not standardizing rest times, this is one of the arguments for standardizing rest times, in that you could just rest longer and that could improve your performance because you're less fatigued. My argument would be, I auto-regulate rest times so that I'm in a position to perform well, and that target muscle can be the limiting factor. There's only a certain amount of rest that I need for that to be the case. If I just rest longer and longer, there's going to become a point where actually it doesn't help my performance anymore, and it just leads to me being like not warmed up. So I think once you've met that threshold of that muscle is going to be the limiting factor, and I feel like I can perform well, that's going to be within a 1 minute range. And I just don't think it's worth standardizing any more than that, because now you're standardizing for the sake of stimulus, basically, where you're being like, oh no, I've rested 3 minutes, I must go again. It's like, but if that muscle's not ready, then now you're just going to underperform, where if you just rested a few seconds more, you could get that. And what's the downside of that? If next week you also rest and auto-regulate it, so you're standardizing by the fact that you're resting as long as you need for that muscle, to target muscle, to perform. That is your standardization, and we don't need to worry about it more than that. So that's my argument there, because I know some people feel very strongly about standardizing rest times, and I feel quite strongly not standardizing them, because I do think it's forsaking stimulus, which is the main goal. And then not standardizing sets, that one I struggle a bit more, because that absolutely has dramatic impacts on things. Like if you do 1 set versus like 6, like suddenly there's tons of fatigue versus like not even enough to potentially stimulate growth within a single session. So I do think you, at least similar to rest times, you want to have a element of standardization. So I do think there's an argument for you could have a range of sets. Maybe you feel a bit better one day and a bit worse one day, then you could have a range. But yeah, I don't think you want to have just go by feel completely, and that could mean one day you just like have this huge spike in fatigue. You're hopefully living in a way that day to day you have good sleep, good recovery, so your life is somewhat stable, and you're not having these huge fluctuations where that might be more apparent. But I don't know if I'm missing something there. But any thoughts from you, Mike?
I don't think so. I think all I was going to add to the standardization of rest times is at least for me, there's an intuitive sense of I'm ready to go now, versus like what you were saying about, hey, if you 1 week you rested 3 minutes, but maybe the next week you rested 10 minutes. Well, you get to a point when, like you said, you get cold, you get a bit stiff, you're not warmed up anymore, and it's not really fully productive. Like maybe you've just started to wind down a little bit and you're not as like stimulated and aroused. So I feel that particularly for someone who's intermediate or advanced and has been training for a long time, you intuitively know like, right, I'm good to go now. So I don't think there's kind of like a concern with that. And I agree with what you said, where, just let yourself be recovered. Make performance the priority, make stimulus the priority, and kind of let recovery fall where it needs to fall to a certain degree. And then similar with regards to rest times, with regards to sets, is, more with my physio hat on, like certain tissues are relatively adaptable, but some tissues like tendons, they hate spikes in load. So if you were to radically fluctuate your loads, 1 week or from week to week, you're probably opening the door for susceptibility to niggles, tendon niggles and so on. So like you said, there needs to be a middle ground of some standardization, flexibility, but flexibility within that.
Yeah. I think, like, if I had, just as an example, if I had a client who they had a variable schedule where sometimes they could do more and invest more time and others they couldn't, and the limiting factor isn't their recovery, it's their time, then I might say, hey, I want you to do at least this many, but where you have more time, you could go up to this, but it would be a range that was acceptable. And yeah, not like you said, if you're suddenly, like, anyone can know this, if you come out of a deload and you do, I remember one time I came out of a deload and I did, what was it? I think it was like a Bulgarian split squat intensifier or something like that. I can't remember exactly how it was, but I got an exertion headache, and it's just my body was not ready for that level of intensity. Like, I suddenly went from like very nothing during the deload to like really high, pushing myself. And that's why we're big fans of like having those kind of intro weeks, so your body gets a chance to adapt and you kind of give it the stimulus and the work it is able to deal with for that week. And I think that is warranted in terms of some periodization. So yeah, that's the only additional point.
No, totally agree.
Cool. Next question is from Wham Wilson 1198. What's your guilty pleasure lift? An exercise that you know isn't optimal for hypertrophy, but you do it for the soul.
Oh, I like this. I like this question. Okay. I don't know.
There probably isn't one.
there genuinely isn't one, because everything serves a purpose. Everything. Yeah, there isn't any which is, like, for want of a better word, suboptimal. I was thinking, I'm really enjoying just stiff-legged deadlifts at the moment, because I'm enjoying getting like slightly aroused for it, having a slightly more compound movement, but at the same time it really serves a purpose, because it's a hip dominant hip hinge pattern, really good for the hamstrings. So it's not like it doesn't have a purpose. I would just say that I'm enjoying it. Likewise, maybe I might argue hip thrusts, but again, it's serving a purpose for a little bit more glute specific hypertrophy. So there probably isn't one for me.
Yeah, I wish there was one for me, but my answer to this is my soul wants hypertrophy.
Yeah.
Doesn't care.
Damn right.
Comes to that. There was a quote I used to say. It was like, my preference is results. It was something along those lines.
Yes.
And that's kind of where my mind goes to. So like, yeah, I don't have any lifts that I'm like, for example, I used to love squatting, and I introduced that recently because when I was going to do Smith squats, the Smith was taken, so I did barbell, and I kept that in for a bit. But like, I just don't get this. My soul doesn't love that anymore, because I get a better stimulus from doing the Smith squats, so I do those, and that gets my soul, and it's more optimal for me. So yeah, I don't really have any. I can't think of any examples of lifts I have in the program where I'm like, I just do that because I just love that lift. It's like, hey, my wants are so close to my needs that there's no need for anything like that.
Yeah, totally agree. Nothing to add.
Nice.
Right, Beamy, she asks, leg volume, exercises, split differences, etc. for female bodybuilders versus wellness athlete.
So this is always going to be individual, so there's no like broad strokes. I can't give you ranges, but what I can say is, like, based off just fundamental differences, a female bodybuilder, similar to a male bodybuilder, just wants to maximize muscle growth everywhere and wants to have a symmetrical physique for them. So they're going to be caring about that. Whereas for a wellness athlete, not that I know the judging criteria for wellness specifically very well, because I've never had a wellness competitor, and we don't have that within the WNBF, so it's nothing I'm well acquainted with. But from my understanding, not so much upper body, maybe bikini-esque upper body from my understanding, from what I've seen of physiques. And then it's very glute, hamstring, quad, legs dominant, basically. And so the biggest difference in terms of the exercise selection, volume, and split would be specialization to legs, whereas the other is going to be like, where do you need to specialize as a female bodybuilder? If you're more advanced, you might, and then you kind of pick on weaknesses that need to bring up and make you more balanced. Otherwise, it's like more global, just everything. I can't think of any other specifics. So I guess the wellness athlete would just have higher frequencies for legs and higher volumes exercises. Not specifically, I can't really think that would be different. You'd still, the good exercises of hypertrophy for your legs for a wellness competitor would still apply to a female bodybuilder. You might just include a little bit more isolation work, similar to how like you include something like a leg extension sissy squat to train the rec fem, sure, but also because it's an easy way to get on additional volume that isn't that fatiguing. So similarly here, it might be that, hey, as a female bodybuilder, you're not doing so many glute kickbacks and stuff like this, but as a wellness athlete, you might include that because you're like, I've got the volume tolerance, and it's like a way to target the glutes in a slightly different way to really maximize that area. Whereas the bodybuilder might just not, the juice might not be worth the squeeze there. It's kind of like, I don't know, as a, you could even argue like as a men's physique competitor, like maximizing like forearm growth and like everything upper body is more in their realm. Whereas as a bodybuilder, it's like, hey, fuck forearms. I need my quads to be bigger, and I need that kind of recovery for those. So yeah, that's where my head goes with this question.
Yeah, so in the MPA, they have wellness categories, and I remember, I think Julia said this, but, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but I think wellness might have emerged from the more Latin American competitors who were really bottom heavy, and they really struggled into bikini categories and wellness categories because genetically they just had very like kind of well developed lower halves.
Figure, not wellness.
No, I'm talking about wellness, sorry.
But you said they struggle for bikini and wellness. You mean figure, bikini and figure?
Sorry, women from Latin America, historically, I think they were struggling in bikini and figure categories, sorry.
That's right. Yeah, because you said wellness the last time. I was like, that's what I was trying to figure out. I was like,
that's what I meant.
How could they struggle with wellness?
They didn't. But because they were struggling with figure and bikini, the wellness category emerged for females who were just a bit more bottom heavy. So that's essentially the wellness look, is where, like you said, bikini-esque upper body, but they're much more bottom heavy, well developed in the lower half. So, and everything that you said basically applies to that.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the condition is also maybe bikini figure-esque. It's not, they're pretty, I've only really seen enhanced. I haven't really seen it in the natural side. So it's less of a problem for naturals because I guess we're not getting that big where like they become oversized that they can be competitive in other categories. I still haven't seen some like that is a wellness athlete kind of thing. No one said like, right, this is the epitome of a natural wellness athlete. So again, it's a little bit hard to say. I guess if on the natural side the conditioning wasn't as high, that could work for some women's favor because some women, their stubborn areas for a lot of women are like the glutes, the hamstrings, stuff like that. So if it was a bit of a softer look, I could see it almost embodying the name wellness, where it's like you don't have to get as conditioned as a figure or potentially a bikini athlete where again they might lose menstrual cycle function or get into reds, whereas you might not have to. So I could see it from that angle.
Yeah, definitely.
Next question.
Yeah.
Right, that is from Nacho Calcagno. Nacho Calcagno. Anyway, so as a reminder, guys, if you are wanting to ask questions, I have a link in the description where you can join the Hypertrophic Time Chamber, which is my little broadcast group on Instagram where I get questions. And I'm liking doing it there because the questions that come through have been fantastic. The quality of question is really, really good. So you guys are holding a high standard. So how do you handle gym being sick? It would be nice to dig a bit deeper of the effects in metabolism or how it affects recovery.
So I always go by, and this is something that you mentioned, I think both in a vlog and in general, is that you want to there's a couple of things that I go by. Well, firstly, separate the symptoms between above the neck and below the neck. So you're thinking of, if it's kind of like a headache, you've got a bit of a runny nose, but maybe kind of like 90-95% you're not too bad. And the key thing is that you ask yourself the question, can you get a productive training session in without necessarily making yourself significantly worse? And I think if those things are in place, then I would be like, hey, you could probably then try going to the gym. However, if you're getting below the neck symptoms and other central symptoms such as fever, maybe you're kind of like got a temperature, or nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, etc., like hopefully some clear signs that for most people they're like, oh yeah, this is not good. And also you ask yourself the question, can you get a productive training session? And you're like, no. Then right, stay away from the gym. And I think in terms of effects in metabolism, I couldn't probably pertain to that as such, but hey, if you've got an immune reaction, I don't think we can extract any, we don't need to change anything nutrition wise. It's like, hey, just if you've got solid nutrition habits in place, just stick with them. You don't need to make any drastic changes other than maybe, things like you might want to have some zinc first defense lozenges or something like that, just to kind of help boost things. If you're not, things like maybe kind of supplementing with zinc or something like that, maybe some of those little small tiny things, potentially. But otherwise I'd say, don't get too caught in the minutiae of metabolism. And then just finally, with these sorts of things, I do think it pays to err a little bit on the side of being conservative, because I think sometimes, you can think, oh no, I'll be okay. But actually, sometimes the cost can be more than you think. And from experience, I've also noted that both personally and with clients, that people perceive themselves to be fine, or they perceive themselves to be recovered, and they're really not. Illnesses last longer than people think. And so you've got to give yourself a little bit longer, and you're much better off erring on the side of being cautious and conservative.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can't say I abide by it. I definitely agree with everything you said, by the way. Particularly what I meant is the last point in terms of abiding by it, where, again, if it's above the neck and I'm feeling like I can perform, like I'm almost to the point of which if I can perform, I will, no matter the cost. And I've suffered the consequences of that afterwards before. So almost do as I say, don't do as I actually do, and do take the rest, because the worst thing is you could skip the gym one day and then be back at it the next day because you gave yourself the recovery. But if you push yourself, you get one torturous session that then makes you sick for a week. It's like, it's not worth it. It's just not, the trade-off isn't there. So I think everything you said there is spot on. I also absolutely agree. As soon as I see the question on like dig deeper into the metabolism, I'm like, for what? I don't like to be that guy, but sometimes it's just like digging into the weeds is nothing more than digging into the weeds. It doesn't actually practically change anything. If it's a short-term sickness, which we're hoping it is, there shouldn't be anything you particularly need to adjust. So I'm not going to blab too long. I did have a vlog on it, which I think is actually really good. So I would just Google, and I send this to clients whenever they're sick. So Google like how to train and eat when sick and revive stronger, and it should pop up. It's I made that when I was sick, and I have it now as a resource for people when this happens. So I'll get to the next question and ask you, Mike.
Go.
Con.Warwicker asked how much of a role do genetics play in injury proneness, and can they be overcome and build muscle resilience if very prone to strains? That's a perfect question for you.
Yeah, so genetics does play a role. I think genetics probably does play a role in injury proneness. You can have things such as Marfan syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, which are like connective tissue disorders. So that might mean that, and also other things like hypermobility syndrome, and these are all interrelated factors. So something like hypermobility syndrome, that where your joints are very mobile, someone like that might be a bit more prone to injury because they've got less perception of, where their joints are. They need much more muscle strength and muscle stability and stiffness to help protect themselves. So yeah, you can have things. So all of those things are kind of genetic to a certain degree, those sorts of syndromes, which can influence and play into injury proneness. But even if someone hasn't been diagnosed with that, having some knowledge of the evidence into lower back pain and like other injuries is that genetics does have a role. How much of a role? I don't know. I don't think it's not anything as big as like 50% or anything, and I wouldn't want to put a set number on it. But we just know that genetics does have a role. And I think all someone can do is they can potentially just look at their family history as well. What was my dad like? What was my mum like? Or granddad or whatever? And I think that will probably give a good indicator as well. But then to the final point of the question, can we overcome this and build muscle resilience? I personally believe yes, but I think it's a long journey. And I think someone who is susceptible needs to be take a very gradual approach. So it might be that, if they get knee pain, if their knees go over their toes, it's like, right, okay, it's graded exposure. So it's just about exposing yourself a little bit to the movement pattern and then just gradually progressively overloading it over time. And I think over time that's what builds muscle resilience and, resilience over time. It just takes time.
I think you answered that really nicely. The only small additional thoughts that I have on there is just with genetics in general, like they impact everything physiology-wise, from your personality to your intelligence to your muscle growth potential to injury, like all these things. So the thing to remember is genetics load the gun, but the environment and what you kind of put into your body and what you do with it kind of pulls the trigger, as it were. So, or another one is you're dealt a certain set of cards, but then it's how you play with them that really counts. So if you are someone who is injury prone, and that becomes obvious with, I don't know, you're training with your mates and they're all fine, and you're like, hey, I do exactly kind of what they're doing, but they're all like fine and I'm screwed. It's like, well, you just have to work with a really smart physio or coach who can help you manage these things. And like you said, manage volumes, maybe exercise selection, might be range of motion, exercise execution. The great thing with bodybuilding, if that is your interest, is we have so many tools at our disposal that you can really, really make it work. And I also believe that there is absolutely the ability to grow resilience. Part of that belief comes from my injury, actually, with my slap tear, where it really was an issue for an extended period of time, but the stability is so much better than it ever was because I've built a muscle around it where it's no longer such an issue and concern for me. And I just think you can probably do something similar with cartilage, like ligaments, tendons, and bones even, like you get better bone density through resistance training, so long as you do what you said, graded exposure, be careful, be smart. So yeah, that's all I had to add on that one. Do we have time for one more question, do you think, Mike?
Yeah, for sure. So Tom P 231288 says, I get a sharp pain in my forearms when doing barbell rows. I think it's the brachioradialis, and it's not to do with grip as I use straps.
I didn't get the question there, did you? I think he's asking how to manage it, but he didn't ask a question. He just told you.
There was no question there.
I just get a sharp pain
in my forearms when doing barbell rows. I think it's the brachioradialis.
I'm going to say sorry to hear that, and Mike is your man to answer this question because he is the physio.
Yeah, it's hard because you don't. What is he asking with this question?
I think Mike, he's asking, I get this pain here. Is there anything I can do to not get that pain? Or what would you advise in this situation? If you had someone coming to you and you're like, hey, you had a client go, hey, I'm doing these barbell rows. I think it's this. What do you suggest I do?
I think the first thing that I would say is, switch the move. I know he said he uses straps, but it is a pronated grip. And the bar has a very fixed path. So my first response would be like, hey, try dumbbells, or, try something different. Try another horizontal row movement. That would be my first response. Coming back to what we said at the very start, it's like maybe that specific tissue just needs a bit of a breather, Yeah. So just try that, I would say. And then maybe you can just go back to it a little bit over time.
I know that's a huge reason like D handles really came in favor. There was a time where it was like a meme where like I'm D handling everything because you get joint freedom and you're not in a fixed pattern. I know some people like even made content where like you should never barbell curl because it puts the wrists in like a injury prone position. It's like, well, there's probably some people who can deal with it fine and other people can't. And maybe it's just like anything, overuse, like vary things over time. So yeah, I loved your answer there. The only other thought I had is, no. I was just thinking to D-handle the bar so you could like do a barbell row but use D-handles under it. I've never actually tried that. I also don't think it's probably great because I imagine they move around, which is probably not ideal. So yeah, I think dumbbells, just trying dumbbells, I think is a great suggestion. Yeah. One more question maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say we can do one more. So Punk and Lifting asks, do you typically use some form of self-tanner or the competition spray tan set up by the show promoter?
Cool. So I have done both. I have done, in my first season for my second show, I did, Charlotte helped me. No, for my first show, Charlotte helped me with my tan. And I think it was Pro Tan. And apparently I was marked down because of my tan. And Charlotte has really bad memories of this experience because apparently I wasn't too happy about it because she helped me with it and she felt like I was blaming her somewhat. And I don't recall that, but maybe that was a thing. And then at the BMBF, so the BMBF in the UK often don't have professional tanners at the venue. I don't know if that's always the case, but certainly when I competed and Mike came and tanned me, basically, he did that. What I will say is it's a lot more stress and hassle to do your own tanning. Unless you're very well equipped to do it, you've experimented. I think self-tanning could ultimately be the right answer. If you found the product that works really well for you, you've found your method that works really well for you, and you can nail it every time and even modify it based off potentially the lighting that's on stage, going darker if it's stronger lights, lighter if it's not, even looking at other competitors so that you are putting yourself in a position to be as competitive as possible. I think it could be that little edge that could make you better, but I think it's so easy to fuck it up and I think it's so much stress, often isn't worth the hassle. If they're professional tanners at the venue, I always suggest go with the professional tanners because 9 out of 10 they do a fantastic job. And also self-tanning, there's so many limitations. Like if you're going to a show on your own, like how are you going to do that? Like if I didn't have you at the BMBF, I actually don't know what I would have done. And even having you there, which was amazing, it was still a stress to have to do it. I would have much preferred to just get a professional tanner. And then hopefully the professional tanners hang around and they can do touch-ups, potentially further coats. I've done that before. I know when we were at the Swiss show, that one comes to mind. I got like 3 coats and the tan there was great. So yeah, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts, Mike.
No, I totally agree with everything that you said. It's great if you've really tried it and it, got the right thing for you. You've got the people and the resources, etc. But if not, just get the promoter, the show tan.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I have heard some people have just had negative experiences with the professional tanners and they want the control themselves. So they do it themselves. But I'm like the professional tanners, they're professionals, right? So they should be able to nail it. And often you hope they care. Like I had Kieran compete. He's very heavily tattooed. He made friends with the tanners and they were really nice people. And they were like really trying to make sure that the tan was set up as best to hide his tattoos, to make him as competitive as possible on stage. Weirdly enough, I think they actually had this at the Swiss show that I did. They had like 3 different packages. It seems like it's like EasyJet. It makes me think of EasyJet, where you can pay to like use the toilet, or like you pay for a certain seat, or you pay to bring on more luggage. It's like they seem to charge for like 1 coat, 2 coats, 2 coats plus a touch up, 2 coats plus or as many coats as you want, like the infinite package or whatever. And man, I think it feels like a bit, I don't know. It's a sense to me that it feels like they try, and I kind of get it, because business mind me kind of gets it. But sometimes I feel like it's a bit, it feels like a liberty, but I also get it, because like they've got to make a living, and if someone is needing more touch-ups because they're screwing it up, or they have not set up their skin well beforehand. So anyway, I don't know where my comment was going there, but I've just seen that become a bit more of a thing. But I do think if you can, going darker generally is advisable. Anyway, I'm rambling on this topic. I have no idea why.
No, I think the only final point that I thought of is kind of almost treat it a bit like a haircut. If you think that first of all, be a good person. Like you're talking about Kieran making friends. It's like, just be nice to them. Like, they're giving up their time and they're having to do a lot. It's, it's not the nicest of things, but like, just be nice to them.
Love it, Mike.
Yeah. But then treat it as a haircut. Like, so, if you feel that you want another coat, ask for another coat. Most often than not, I would have liked to think that most people will be happy to do it,
Yeah. Oh, what was I going to say? Yeah, it's like at the end of a haircut, they're like, you happy with it? I can't remember if I've ever said, no, I'm not. Like, please change it here. I'm just like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Let me out of this chair. Yeah, the only other thing, what was I going to say with the tans? Yes, yeah, my advice would just be like, really make sure you set yourself up well in terms of your skin preparedness. So exfoliate plenty, moisturize, don't have any product on your skin when you're going to get it done, and then it should be good. I swear I had a thought, and don't forget your glaze. That's often something people forget. And yeah, just see what they offer. Oh, this is what I was going to say, Mike, sorry, is a lot of people, like I mentioned, it can feel expensive. But remember, you're not doing many shows. You're not competing very often. It's more often than not worth spending a little bit extra than going cheap and trying to do it yourself on the cheap, I would say. I know not everyone can do that, but I think if you frame it like that, sometimes it makes it a bit easier. But yeah.
And it can make a big difference. Like if you don't have a great tan, or like you said, maybe you don't have quite glaze, it is very much the difference between someone really standing out to the judges and someone being like, oh god, the guy's messed up his tan, kind of thing, or you can't see the lines, etc. in the physique. It does make a big difference. So like you said, just invest. You're only doing a few. It's not like you're doing 20 or anything like that. So invest in it. Don't go cheap.
My mind is going to go somewhere it shouldn't if I keep talking about this, Mike. So I'm going to close it here, because I'm very tempted to go down a route that I know I shouldn't. It might spike some comments, but I'm not going to do it. So, Mike, thank you for your time, Mike. Thank you guys for your questions. As always, I highly appreciate them. As a reminder, we are online coaches, so we help clients with their tans and talking through that process. We have guidelines on how to get the best from your tan, or any discussions, any questions. We help guide our clients all through that. And like lots of the questions and decision making that was discussed here is things that we help our clients with. So yeah, definitely if you are interested in having either myself, Mike, or Ryan in your corner to help guide you through this process to get more from your time and efforts, then definitely think about our coaching. We'd love to potentially work with you. If you're listening this long, definitely you're someone who we'd be interested to work with. Like we already said, some UK competitors would be amazing. I'd love that opportunity, because then I can actually be in the crowd. That'd be quite nice. Potentially judging, but not you. Anyway, I'm on a ramble. Mike, do you want to close us out? Any final words?
Guys, we appreciate you. Drop us a comment. We love the chats, and we can't wait to catch up again next week.
Cheers, guys.
See you later.